lot of games with really lovely and wholesome messages out there. Whether they be farming sims that focus on bringing a town back to life, short narratives centered around a simple but pleasant adventure, or peaceful building puzzle games about growing and exploring diverse biomes and landscapes. But have you maybe ever considered a game where you help to restore a community or town, but you do it through the ultimate experience, capitalism? Well, let me tell you about Discounty. In Discounty, manage your own supermarket where you organize and restock shelves, check out customers, make local trade deals, and befriend a quirky cast of characters as you work to salvage a failing shop in the once thriving town where it resides. However, not everyone in your town wants you to succeed. But why? Surely the business you run couldn't be up to any nefarious dealings. There would be no reason why a franchise would do things like enact harmful labor practices, contribute to pollution, or generally make people's lives worse, right? That's the balance and conundrum with Discounty, and why I've been so excited and watching this game religiously for probably close to 2 years at this point. I've probably said this a million times at this point, but my general interest in specific games typically has less to do with things like game genres or overuse of classification markers like cozy, but instead really more something that grabs my attention and stands out in this era of overconsumption in the gaming space. Something that really makes me say, wow, I really need to check out this game. And that is exactly how Discounty has made me feel. So I want to say thank you so much to the folks over at Crinkle Cut Games for sending me an early access demo to get to preview the game and show it and share it with you all. Now, I've been granted the authorization to post this review as of today, but if you're looking for more info as to when Discounty and its demo will be made available to the public, make sure to tune into the Wholesome Direct on June 7th for more info and news. And without further ado, let's get into the game. Upon starting your journey in Discounty, you do get a little bit of character customization options. Being able to pick an outfit, select a hairstyle, change your body frame, and of course name your playable character whatever you want. It's not super customizable the way you've maybe seen in other games, but in a lot of ways that sort of feels thematic to maybe some of the underlying themes in this game. And also, personally, it's not something I would be bothered by in my actual gameplay. Sometimes a game has a story to tell with a very specific character, and so this feels like a kind of nice in-between, where you can make the character feel a bit the way you'd want to be perceived while still holding true to the playable character's actual role in the story and their relation to others in the game. You arrive to the town of Blomkest the night before your first actual shift at Discounty. The game does a good job of walking you through a tutorial on basic mechanics and gameplay features like controls and your various menus you have access to. On your first night as well, you get the opportunity to experience some of the actual supermarket management mechanics without being under the time scrutiny and pressure of customers around you. You get to place down some shelves and storage wherever you'd like, and you're able to move them around and customize them easily, so that's a pretty low stakes component early in the game. You also try your hand at actually running the store and checking out customers under these same low stakes parameters. And while you are responsible for the math in totaling customers' orders, the good news is it's just simple math that you're also allowed to skip if you can do it in your head, as well as being prevented from making a mistake if you enter incorrect totals, which is something I actually ended up doing at one point later in the game. Grace is the first character you meet, someone else who works at Discounty, and is mainly who you go to for game mechanic understanding and assistance on how to proceed through the story. You also get the chance to unload some new stock brought to you by the delivery person, Guy, so it's a pretty well-rounded tutorial in my opinion. After you're done in the store, you're greeted by Teller, your aunt who takes you to your new home right down the road from Discounty. Teller shares that it has been the goal to really grow this store into something to be proud of, something that will help revitalize the town and bring in all kinds of successful business. There are some customization features inside your home that become usable a bit later in the game, and you can even customize your playable character right here immediately as well. As would likely seem somewhat obvious, interacting with your bed does prompt you to end the day, at which point you wake up at 6 a.m. on the following day. On the first official day, Teller does let you know that your work shift begins at 8 a.m. and you'll be working from 8 to 5 each day you report to Discounty. You're given both a watch to manage time and a map to be able to navigate your way around town. As the day begins at 6 a.m., this does give you a little time to wander around or prepare before actually beginning the workday. Teller also informs you that it's going to seemingly be your responsibility to begin building relationships with other merchants in the town to negotiate things like trade deals, and you're first tasked with trying to secure a deal with Fisher, the fisherman. Any of these tasks and activities that you're being prompted to fulfill are being logged as quests in your planner that you can pull up at any point and see the progress on, which is definitely helpful for staying organized. Since I had time to spare, I figured I'd mosey on down to the harbor to see if I could meet this Fisher character when the game did immediately introduce the running, or at least faster walking feature, which I definitely appreciated right out the gate. This game seems in many ways to be open-ended or maybe more sandbox in nature, while still having a general story and chapters that your character will experience as you move through each part, and personally, I'm a pretty big fan of that kind of style. But I'm excited to see if there will truly be branching or more choices that lead to drastically different outcomes or impacts deeper in the game. Fisher let me know pretty quickly that buying fish directly from him was not going to be an option because of the monopoly currently at play. I see we're just diving in feet first here. So apparently Barbara is the one who holds all the cards in this specific monopoly, and it does immediately become your task to convince Barbara to give up some shares by agreeing to sell some out-of-season Fishmas sticks in the store. Given that there's been minimal luck unloading them without my help, this does feel like a task we're set up to fail with, but Barbara is willing to share that there might be someone over at the hardware store that can help. With more than an hour and a half left until I needed to be at work, I did decide to run over to the hardware store, but it doesn't even open until 6:30. Anyways, once inside, I met Ted, who did actually give me an aquarium to use in my store. This item is supposed to help entice customers and boost the sale of fish products if they're within a certain range of the aquarium. And in some of the trailer footage, it looks like there are several other items that can impact sales and customer interest for a wide range of products, so I think this will be a pretty cool feature to utilize more in the future. The hardware store is also where you're able to buy more shelves and storage for storefront displays, so I did grab an extra freezer here so I can try to figure out what to do with these fish sticks. After all that, now it's time to actually get to work. Like mentioned before, your workday does start at 8 a.m. and I did make it to work on time every day I went to work, so I'm not sure yet what the penalties or consequences are if maybe you don't get to work on time. But as far as each workday goes, various customers come in, including Miss Anderson, an older resident of the town who is literally waiting for the doors to open every morning. Very authentic experience in my opinion. And many customers come in with a checklist that you can see, which is also helpful if you're not stocked up properly. Of course, as a shopkeeper, you do need to be keeping things in stock regularly and to the best of your ability, so in addition to ringing up and checking out customers, I did spend quite a bit of time running to the back and grabbing more of the various stocked items to refill the shelves, which definitely got a little stressful at certain points. I imagine as your store and presence in the community grows, things like managing discounting definitely become more challenging and probably have those bigger consequences, but even if I left a customer waiting at a checkout for a moment while trying to refill something like toilet paper, it never seemed to cause any issues yet. As far as the supermarket simulator aspect went, I was able to play about 6 days before the demo ended, and I do think for some folks this may be shorter for them depending upon how they're able to manage the various quests you're given. The main quest for this first chapter and demo was definitely trying to effectively sell these Fishmas sticks that Barbara gave to you. You're given 10 total to sell, and using the aquarium definitely helped to get them moving. Like mentioned before, most of the characters come in with a list, and I think a few of the NPCs started actually having the Fishmas sticks on their list the last day or two. But prior to that, it was usually the NPC spotting the item and it piquing their interest enough for them to go over and add it to their list. I'm sure this whole mechanic is just a great way to boost sales by getting customers to buy things they didn't even realize they needed. I did usually spend either time after each night or the morning of each day to restock the store and have it set up nice for customers during the next shift. It is your responsibility to reorder stock as needed, which I only needed to do once or twice during the demo, but the good news is their delivery system is highly efficient and gets delivered basically immediately, so you're not waiting days to get in a new delivery of milk. The game also introduced a recycling box crushing feature that allows you to take the cardboard and styrofoam you're getting in with the new deliveries, process them, and take them to the recycling bin to actually earn a little cash back. As someone who actually cares about and prioritizes recycling in my own life, I loved this feature and probably would have done it for free, but as it's stated to you, the only way they can seem to get folks to do so in Blomkest is with a financial incentive. During the times when you're not working, you do obviously get the chance to walk around the town, interact with the townspeople, and progress other parts of the story as you see fit. There are quite a few interesting characters right off the bat, such as the council member who seems to not really know how to actually provide support to the town or help create meaningful change to the community, aside from dedicating all his free time to the park in the center of Blomkest. Another curious individual was the bartender, Hilda, who is definitely keeper of a lot of local secrets and gossip. I imagine befriending this character is beneficial in the long run, whichever way you decide to go. I did try wandering into a bunch of different houses and buildings, some of them vacant, some with characters that maybe had a small bit of dialogue, but keeping in mind that this is just the demo, I'm sure there would be a lot more to do with them in the full game. Speaking of demo restrictions, there are some other quests you can attempt to complete or at least begin while you're playing. One that I found was related to a seemingly abandoned shopping cart and a discussion with Miss Anderson about helping her move her groceries, but there wasn't much to see aside from that initial cutscene. You were, however, able to begin a quest related to helping one of the local farmers collect his sheep. This quest does begin seemingly as an act of good faith to try to initiate some trade deals with the farmer and does send you on a collection quest around the town to find his 8 sheep, which your aunt tells you to bring to the park after completion. This was a pretty easy task, and I was looking forward to trying out getting another trade deal started until it became clear that this wasn't going the way I thought it was. I'm starting to think Teller isn't one of the good guys, y'all. So you did something that was potentially good, but ultimately caused harm, except at least in this case, you didn't realize that was going to happen. And bad news, at least for now, is the next part of the quest of actually helping and trading with the farmer is locked and not playable in the demo, so I guess we'll have to see if that really turns into something. It took me about 6 in-game days to play through the demo, as it seems that this first chapter, or at least the playable part of the demo, is inherently tied to your success in moving the fish mystics. Like mentioned earlier, that aquarium was supposed to help boost sales, and I think it did in some ways, but at least for me, I didn't really experiment with moving the shop around too much, and I wonder if I had moved the products to a better line of sight when customers walked in, if I would have sold them faster. Of course, though, on my last day of selling them, suddenly multiple people came into the store looking for the product when it took me like 2 days to even sell one of them the couple of days before. You are able to tell customers that an item is sold out, so once you communicate that, they do end up checking out still with whatever was in stock from their grocery lists. Completing this specific quest does in fact basically conclude the demo, as you get to go tell Barbara you actually managed to sell these old, most likely out-of-date products, and even though she too is shocked, it does unlock your ability to begin getting fish from Fisher. The demo did inform me that leaving the harbor would trigger the end of the demo, but I was not actually prepared for what would happen after doing so. Aunt Teller is actually waiting for you when you leave the harbor and is solely there to inform you that Grace is no longer going to be working at Discounty because she was fired. Yeah, Teller is not the good guy in this story. A couple of in-game features to note as well. Time does move pretty quickly in the game, probably very comparable to hours in games like some farming sims you might have played, but most specifically, time seems to move even faster when you're actively working at Discounty. I'm sure in a lot of ways that helps the game not feel monotonous or like actual work, having to clock in and watch the minutes tick by, and so it doesn't overwhelm the entire story of the game. Another feature that I did not try out personally is the speed feature that can be visibly seen in the bottom right corner of gameplay, specifically when interacting with other characters or in cutscenes. It seems like you can opt to not only speed up dialogue in cutscenes, but also slow them down if you choose or need. I didn't mess with this setting at all personally, but I do really like that it's available. Another feature you might notice in some of my interactions with shopkeepers, when you buy an item, you can actually opt to have it delivered for slightly more money instead of taking it with you. I'll be curious to see if that increases, but I love that that's a feature, whether it just ends up being more convenient or if for some reason I'm carrying around 5 stacks of apples, at least I don't have to leave and come back. So I am not kidding when I say that I have been truly so excited for this game. It looks like such a fun spin on formats that we've seen kind of overplayed at this point, but really its own unique approach with its own ethical and moral dilemmas that you're facing constantly. Based on what I can understand, I think you have the ability to potentially scale or not scale your supermarket, and so we didn't get to see a ton of that specifically in this demo, but I really am curious to see if I'll be able to make those more ethical decisions or opt for maybe the less ethical route and see how that impacts the gameplay. I feel like maybe it's not really easy to tell from the demo that I showed here, but I was trying to pick decisions that were more empathetic to people, that were more ethical, that were more critical of like bad business practices. So I want to see if that will impact things in the long run when we get the full release of the game. But I genuinely enjoyed this demo. I really liked the game mechanics. I really appreciated the tutorial in the beginning that I talked about earlier. I think that's really really beneficial. I'm used to playing games now that don't have a lot of tutorials, and so it's just always nice to have that because it just makes the gameplay a little bit more seamless in the beginning. I'm anticipating that a lot of people are going to label this game under the cozy games umbrella, and in the game's defense, the developers do use cozy to describe it. But this game, even only playing a few in-game days, is kind of high stress, which is not inherently cozy or not cozy. It's just something that should be clarified because I get a little frustrated when people want to label things just because it has pixel art as cozy. And I was feeling the pressure while playing, making sure that my shelves stayed stocked. There was a moment where I realized now was not actually the character looking to steal, but I thought that might have been a mechanic in the game, and maybe it will be later. So things like that make the game a little bit higher stakes, which I really enjoy. But I think a lot of people might get frustrated if they go into this game because they think of cozy games and they don't really understand what that word means. But like I said, I really enjoyed it. I liked that there was task management, which is something that I really enjoy in games of this nature. So constantly being mindful of what I needed to have, things I needed to order overnight, breaking down boxes and taking them to the recycling bin. I felt like I had a lot of tasks to do most days, and I thought that was really beneficial and something that I really enjoy in gameplay. But truly, at the core of this game is this concept of what happens when you scale this discount grocery store, which seems to be part of an entire franchise, and you take it to larger capacities and the ramifications of everything that go with that. In some of the trailers, we've seen things like toxic sludge being dumped into water, people picketing and protesting the store, and all of those kinds of things. And I am going to love seeing this because I love when a game can actually provoke conversation and discussion about things on a bigger scale. It's immediately got me thinking of things like keep politics out of art, keep politics out of books and video games, but art is inherently political. And so I think using a medium like this is a great way to discuss it, in part because, as I've always talked about in a lot of my content, for many people, those things aren't always as accessible as we'd hope them to be. So giving someone a space like a video game to explore these implications and then think about what it means may help them connect dots in a bigger sense in the real world context that could really be beneficial in the long run. And I know I've mentioned this earlier, I'm genuinely curious to see if you're able to succeed in the game by maybe finding some kind of medium, some kind of balance between all of these things. I don't know what any kind of ending point will be. I'm thinking of other games that, you 100%. I don't know if the game will have that kind of metric. So be curious to see if there's multiple endings, if there are different routes that will impact how you play out the finale of the game, basically. As I know I've already said, I'm so excited to play this game. The demo made me more excited to see more of the game and the chance to play it fully in the future. I think this is going to be such a good one, not only for me to play, but I think people who stream this one will enjoy. I think it'll be a really good community interaction kind of game. As I always try to do, I will also post a full version of just my demo playthrough with no commentary so that if folks want to watch that, get a feel for the game and see if it's something that they want to check out, that'll be available to you, and I'll link it right here as well. Obviously, this video is going up before the Wholesome Direct, so we'll definitely have more news on Discounty as a whole once the Direct comes out in the next couple of days, but I am so excited to see the future of this. It's just so exciting to see it moving again. When you follow a game for a couple of years, once you actually start to see it roll out, it is such a fulfilling experience as a creator, but also just as a gamer in general. So if you liked this demo, if you enjoyed what you saw, if you think Discounty is a game you'll want to check out, make sure to wishlist it on Steam. Wishlists are so helpful for game developers. And then you can keep it on your radar as well if you decide to play it again in the future. Thank you again so much to the folks over at Crinkle Cut Games for sending me the early access demo. I had so much fun. I think my demo runtime was about an hour and 20 minutes, so it was plenty of content to play, and I was a little bit sad when it ended because I was really enjoying the game that much. Hopefully you found this interesting. I love to showcase fun and indie games that are unique, and this is definitely an example of one. So if you want to see more of my content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get more content up regularly, trying to do a more diverse range of games in addition to my other main focal points. But thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to check out the Wholesome Direct later this week to see what else is in store for Discounty, and we will see you in the next one.
Everything's on sale proudly.